far you have come on your own, but never alone. Through the rain and through the shine, here's your moment, it's your time. You stood tall and now you see, standing in your destiny. 100 women growing strong. 100 women where you belong. You stood tall and now you see, you have reached your destiny. Woman, woman.
As people of African descent, we offer this land recognition in solidarity with the indigenous peoples of Turtle Island in the efforts and deliberate intentions toward decolonization. As people of African descent, we acknowledge the land of Turtle Island that sustains us, express deep gratitude to its indigenous peoples, and pledge to honor our dignity and divinity that ultimately connects us all. By Kay Johnson. Welcome to 100 ABC Fireside Chats. 100 Accomplished Black Canadian Women is a bold project initiated by co-authors and co-founders, the Honorable Dr. Jean Augustine, Dr. Denise O'Neill Green, and Donna Jones Simmons. Our mission is to celebrate and archive the professional accomplishments of trailblazing Black women from all across Canada. The goal is to create an ever-expanding database available for current and future generations via print media, public and private libraries, as well as our website, which is www.100abcwomen.ca. In addition to our fireside chats on topics that matter to our communities, such as education, healthcare, entertainment, creative arts, trade union, and so much more, we offer biennial book launching galas and biannual symposiums. The co-authors and co-founders would like to take this opportunity to thank each of you for attending today's fireside chat. We know that you will find these sessions educational and inspirational. So sit back, relax, and hear from our brilliant and talented honorees.
Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to another 100 ABC Women Fireside Chat. Happy Black History Month to all. And as part of our Black History Month celebrations, we have a special video today honoring some of our heroes and sheroes, including our very own Dr. Jean Augustine.
And so I said, dream big, go for your dreams. You have strength, you have potential, go for it.
Another banger, listen up now, right now, as we celebrate Black excellence all month now, all month now, all month now. Angela James, stand up now, take a bow. Garrett Morgan made gas mask a thing back in 1912. He also made the 3-light traffic system. Oh, 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 oh. Viola Desmond on the $10 banknote. Oh, 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 oh. Beyonce hit the high note. Oh, 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 oh. Jean Augustine is the go. Oh, 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 official, always showing love to Scarborough. We wouldn't have chips if it wasn't for George Crumb and potatoes. Billie Holiday and Ella Fitzgerald, they sung with soul. Now Dr. Shirley Jackson, she was the first woman to earn a doctorate in nuclear physics. She had other inventions, including call waiting, Lincoln Alexander, first black member of parliament. Where would we be without Frederick Douglass? Or Phil Downing for inventing the mailbox? Willie O'Ree took the ice. Gear shift from Richard Spikes. Music from Prince and Mike. February is the month now, to tell you what Black history is about. We've got more work to do, there is no doubt. Black is beautiful and I am so proud. Now Black history, let's go. Oh, 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 oh.
Wow, absolutely amazing. My name is Marie Clark Walker, and I will be your moderator for today's discussion on Celebrating Successes, a national review of our Black Sheroes. I'm still in awe of that video. It's cold here, but that video is warming to the soul. Black History Month and the topic of Sheroes are connected because Black women have been at the forefront of history-making movements, innovations, and cultural shifts, often without receiving the recognition they deserve or the flowers until they have passed. 100 ABC Women ensures that our sisters, mothers, grandmothers, and aunties who have paved the way are recognized for their resilience, brilliance, and contributions. Today, we're going to celebrate some of those trailblazers and unsung sheroes who have inspired us or are working hard to inspire the next generation. My guests today are also sheroes, and all have people who they consider sheroes. I'm joined by three amazing sheroes. Lola Adeniyi. Lola originates from Nigeria. She's a social impact professional who has worked with organizations such as Global Compact Network Canada, Ontario Trillium Foundation, and TD Bank Group, all of which based in Toronto. She is a 100 ABC 2024 awardee. She's joined by Adebola Adefiyoye, another 2024 100 ABC awardee. Adebola is a consultant and executive director at Afro Women and Youth Foundation and an early childhood education professor. She has won many awards for her academic achievements and community work, and she's currently a PhD policy studies student at Toronto Metropolitan University. Also joining us is another 2024 awardee, Angela Carter. Angela is the past executive director of Roots Community Services and now retired. She continues to work to break down discriminatory barriers and eliminate systemic racism while continuing to advocate for the advancement of Black and racialized communities. Similar to the fellow panelists, she has also been recognized and received several awards. Welcome, welcome all. I am really excited to get started and hear from all three of these fabulous women. Let's begin with Lola. Lola, what is a social impact professional?
Thanks, Marie. Basically, someone whose work focuses on creating positive social change or kind of addressing social issues or improving the well-being of our community. So it could be someone working for a nonprofit organization, social enterprise, foundations, government agencies, even the private sector. So we're talking about areas such as poverty alleviation, education, healthcare, like some of my fellow panelists here, advocacy, policy, community engagement, fundraising, grant writing. It's really a wide range. So if you're not sure what social impact is, you have the skills, absolutely, to create a career in that path.
So I would say all of our panelists are social impact professionals because they've all impacted us in various ways. So today we're going to talk about Sheroes. What is a Shero? It's a woman who is admired for her courage, outstanding achievements. Some of us have been able to meet our Sheroes, people like Jean Augustine, who is a Shero to many, people like Rosemary Brown, Gloria Bayliss, for me, Inez Johnson, people who are no longer with us. Famous Sheroes like Angela Davis, which is another one of mine, and another one of my Sheroes, my mother, Beverly Johnson. So a Shero can be anyone, and the qualities that we believe they should have may be different depending on who you speak with. However, there are some qualities that you would want all Sheroes to have. So I want our panelists to answer this question, and I'll begin with Angela. What makes someone a Shero? And before I go there, let me just remind all our viewers online that you can put questions in the chat because we will be taking questions later on from our viewers. So Angela, start with you. What makes someone a Shero?
Thank you so much, Marie. What makes someone a Shero? You know, society tends to define heroes and Sheroes as those who achieve public greatness. But real heroism is often unseen, unheard, and unpaid. So for me, a Shero is a grandmother raising her grandkids alone because the system failed their parents. Or the mother who sends her child to school with a packed lunch, even if it means she's going without something herself. Or the woman who turns her kitchen into a community hub, feeding and supporting those in need. So these acts may seem small, but they change lives and shift generations. You know, Black women have long been the silent architects of resilience in building families, communities, and movements while receiving little to no recognition. And I think of my mother, my maternal grandmother, my aunt, you know, when I think of this, how they have worked and really through hardships and just to make sure that their offspring had a better life. So, you know, so for me, that is someone that's a Shero, really. Yes, we have Jean Augustine, and we really appreciate those that have recognition, like Jean, Gloria Bayliss, yes, because Jean, there's so many others, Beverly Maskell, there are so many others that we can name. But for me, especially at this stage in my life, I guess, it's those that unseen and unheard of. And actually, our organization, Roots Community Services, did a book called Our Lives, Our Heritage, and talk about the stories of the women who emigrated to Canada, primarily from the Caribbean and Africa. A lot of them came in the 50s and 60s, and Jean was one of those actually on the West Indian domestic scheme and stuff. And some of our actually our former 100 ABC honorees in that book as well, talking about how they came here, the work they did, how they overcome the racism and stuff to do it, but to help build this country. So for now, I'll talk more about those who are the visible ones and the ones I recognize. But for me, it's that everyday person that is doing so much, on whose backs we are rising.
Thank you, Angela, and we'll definitely talk some more about those women because they are definitely Sheroes amongst all of them. Adebola, what is a Shero to you? What makes someone a Shero?
Yeah, I think a Shero is someone who continues to push for change wherever they think there's any form of injustices. And we see a lot of people in Canada, in Black Canadian history, who have continued to fight for what we're seeing today. Someone that really inspires me a lot is Viola Desmond, who fought for racism in Halifax. And her story is really inspiring for me because I'm also in that space where I'm trying my best on a daily basis to make sure that in my own little way, I am dismantling anti-Black racism in Canada. So, and just like Angela said, apart from the people who are no longer with us, we have people who continue to do the work on a daily basis, and we're inspired by the work that they do. And I have two of such women in my life. I have Dr. Remi Obundimu, who is a retired medical doctor in Sudbury, Ontario. She's retired, but she continues to work, not work to get paid, but she continues to daily contribute to community development. She sits at table and joins conversations around how we can move the community forward and make sure that it's inclusive of everyone, no matter what their skin color look like, no matter what challenges or disability, no matter what form of equity that they're experiencing or inequities that they're experiencing. She continues to show up on a daily basis and speak up for them. And that inspires me a lot because she's close to where I live. I see her and I like what she's doing and I'm inspired on a daily basis. So I think Shiro is someone who continues to show up. There would always be challenges, but continuing to show up to speak up about things that matter and things that can make the world a better place.
Thank you. And Lola, what's a Shiro? Who's a Shiro to you?
Ooh, well, as the other two panelists said, it's really someone who is working to create positive change within their communities, sung and unsung Sheroes. I think for me, what I've really been drawn to is people who lead with empathy and authenticity. So they show us that change is possible. Those are the shoulders we stand on. Our first Black Canadian Governor General, Dr. Jean Augustine, so many great firsts, but also the people within our communities who are doing the small things, who make sure that neighborhood kids have a place to go to after school and their parents are not worried. My personal Sheroes are from different sectors, and I am so privileged to have a tribe of women that I look up to, and that every single day I'm inspired by what they're doing.
I think that the having a tribe of women for women is extremely important. So for me, the Black women, I think Black women have historically carried the weight of multiple roles. And we all know many of these women, women who have led in their career, cared for families while advocating for their communities. All three of you have talked about those women, all of this, doing all of this while they're still facing the systemic obstacles. And, you know, for me, yes, it's important to recognize those who we all know, right? The Angela Davises of the world, the Rosemary Browns, the for some Beyonce, and those who are, you know, in the limelight or have been in the limelight or were in the limelight. But for me, I look at someone like my grandmother, who came to Canada with two teenage children, divorced at a time when divorce was frowned upon, and came, found a job, and had to raise those two. She had two older children, but the two younger ones on her own. I look at someone like my mom, who didn't necessarily want to come here, but tried to make a better life for her children and came to a country that wasn't welcoming and still managed to make it as a single mom, and help us to get through. So I want to hear a little bit about your unsung heroes. Why are they your heroes? Why should they be heroes to others or sheroes to others? Oftentimes we look at men. When we're in school, we hear about the men who are heroes. We never hear about the women. I remember taking a class at York University on women's history, and we weren't hearing about Black women in those classes. And again, why not? We're out there doing the heavy lifting all the time. So, you know, who wants to take on that particular question before we go on to something else? Anybody?
Okay,
Arabola.
okay.
Yeah, I can go. So I think you're totally right. We have a lot of people doing amazing things, and they're not seen. Sometimes they are also not the very visible, maybe on social media type of people. So I have someone like that. Her name is Josephine Mohaya. She's a professor in the School of Early Childhood Education at Seneca College. I came into Canada, I was already in the education system back home. I was a Montessori teacher, but I came to Canada and went into Seneca College, not sure what I wanted to do. But Josephine was already at Seneca, I think, just completed a program at that time and was teaching part-time. But Josephine was always looking out for Black students every time. If you're a newcomer, international student, always looking out and checking on people, how they're doing, always providing that support and mentoring people, even, no matter what it is that you're going through. So she provided that support, provided that leadership. And some of us today are where we are today because Josephine provided that support. She was like that big sister, that big auntie that everybody wanted to have. She's still doing fine, but she continues to mentor and to provide support to many other young Black students in the ECE program or in the community work sector. So Josephine Mohaya is somebody that I would really like to say a big shout out to.
Thank you, Adebola. Angela?
Oh, there's so many women, a lot of them that I've worked with as well that is doing some great work. But those that may be well known, like Ann Cools, the first Black female senator, and who you know. Kay Livingston, right? She was the founder of the Canadian Negro Women's Association. Zanana Kande, the first Black woman elected to Ontario legislature. Afua Cooper, that historian and poet. But I've worked with people like Anya Nuram, who is really pushing very hard in the public health. She's a public health physician. Debbie Douglas, who's the executive director of the Ontario Council of Agencies Serving Immigrants. There is Notisha Masakwa, again, another health equity advocate. So there are these women that I work with now that we're doing such great work to push, especially in the healthcare system, where there's a big lack of trust with our communities and the healthcare system. And in education, we see that in education they have others that are working to push that as well, and even in the child welfare area. So there are a lot of women we're working with today, Black women that's doing that. But I would even go back to, I would think about my mother and my grandmother and what they did, and this is coming from Barbados during a time of colonization, and they not wanted to speak about the hardships they encounter. You ask some questions, they were saying, you don't need to talk about that now. We don't need to, let's see sleeping dogs lie. Don't worry, this is where you need to look. They kept looking forward. They did not want to look back because of it was too painful for them to look back. So they said, okay, no, let's look forward. This is what we need to do. When my mom had 10 children, and when free education came to Barbados in the early 60s, she made sure that every single child got to school. No matter what, they all got to school, everyone got an education, when it became free. Before that, she had to pay. She couldn't pay for everybody, so only 2 were able to go, right? And that kind of stuff. So, when I look at that and then what she did to make sure that she was able to send them to school, these are the heroes, because they're unsung. We talk about some of the sung ones, but yeah, the unsung ones are really the ones I think, because they help build that society and instill virtues in us to let us know that even when you have little, you can do so much. And being able to take the little you have and let that stretch, to so much. I think sometimes today we forget that we have so much and we don't seem to think we have enough still. And those guys had so little and made it last and stretch beyond. And I think that is something we need to go back to somehow, learning how to do so much more with such little.
You're right, Angela. And I think, many of us who came to Canada in the 1970s and 80s heard those same things for me, it was my grandmother. Right? You don't need to look back. Let's keep looking forward. And yes, looking forward is important. It is what gives us that strength and that hope, to do better and be better, etc. But looking back is so important. That knowledge, that history, what we're finding now, especially in the times that we're living with, diversity, equity, and inclusion being pushed now to the back or to the side. our kids don't have that history, and it's our job, our role to teach them about their heroes and sheroes that they're not going to read about in the textbooks, that they're not going to hear about in school or in a class that they're going to take. So there's a lot on our shoulders as well, and we have to ensure that we do that education so that they'll know exactly where they came from, the obstacles, the barriers that we've had to overcome. And my fear, and I know that we're sort of drifting off, but my fear is all that work that we have all done to get to this point is going to be lost, and they will have to start again. We've all been doing all of this for the benefit of our children and grandchildren. But, anyway, before I get off topic, let me go to Lola and talk about, just ask the same question. And then Adebola, I see the hand. I'll come back there.
Okay, so I guess mine would also be a personal shout out to one of my sheroes. She's a professor at York University. So she actually teaches African and post-colonial literature studies, Dr. Madupe Olagun. Back, God, I think I was about 15 or 16. She also created the African Theater Ensemble. So in Toronto, I got to see productions from African playwrights being put on, which was a new thing. It was a different thing. It was impactful and inspiring. On a personal level, she was the first woman I saw from the Nigerian community who had locks. So that actually inspired me to start my lock journey. And as we know, as Black women, sometimes that shift to wearing your natural hairstyle in your work is frightening and you're wondering what the reaction would be. But I saw someone who did it and who did it well. And I said, I want to be just like her when I grow up. So.
And that is so important. If you don't see yourself reflected, if we don't see ourselves reflected, it doesn't give us that hope and that wanting to be better or somewhere. Again, growing up in the places that the four of us grew up in, we saw people that looked like us, that did well, that were heroes, that were sheroes that we looked up to. We're now living in a country where it could change tomorrow, that they don't see that in their textbooks. They don't hear that in school. So it's important for us to keep that history going. It's on us. One of the things that I think back to was when I was elected at the Canadian Labour Congress as the first Black woman, I think Black person in the position of leadership as an officer. There wasn't anyone else that looked like me. And there were times that I wanted to quit. I just, it was just too much. The racism, the sexism, the pushback. And I remember the time, every time I tell this story, I get a little emotional because I remember the time I came home. So I was working in Ottawa and my kids were here in Toronto. And I came home and I said to my youngest one, "You're getting your wish. Mommy's coming home. Can't take this anymore. Done. Finished." And my child, who was 10 years old at the time, looked up at me and said, "Are you quitting? You're quitting, Mom? I thought you taught us never to quit." And that resonated and kept ringing in my ear. We do this for the next generation. And we will continue to do this for generations to come. Anyway. Let me go back on
You know what
topic.
I would like to add to that, Marie, because I think the two of us are older than Lola and Adebola. We are saying this for your benefit. You need to take this on. You're our next generation to carry this forward. So we are depending on you.
Thank you.
Keep it going. See, all those books that I'm seeing now that people are taking up and writing about, again, the unsung heroes, the little child that is looking at their hair differently because of the book that they've read, looking at their hair differently because of someone like Selena Cesar Chavez, who took it on in the House of Commons. All of those things are what makes today's sheroes, all of our sheroes, right? So this is a question that might take a little thought and some time, because I actually want you to do the exercise. This question came from Lola. Lola, you put this on all of us, right? If we could sit down and have an intimate fireside chat with one of our sheroes, it could be an unsung hero or someone that we all know, who would it be? And what are some of the questions that you would ask her? So Lola, we'll start with you.
Okay. Well, for me, I was thinking of just some of the sheroes we've just mentioned already today, and thank you for saying her name, Miss Selena Cesar Chavons. I would love to sit down with her and just imposter syndrome is real, y'all, okay? No matter what level I get to, I still have that pause of, do I deserve to be in this room? Am I worthy of this? Is this a poison chalice because you want somebody else to take the blame for something I didn't create? And I always want to sit down with leaders that I look up to and Black women that are doing things and say, how do you get past that? What is the thing that you go back to every day when you get home in your quiet moments that stills that voice, that brings you back to, I can do this. I deserve to be here. I will do great things while I'm here. I just want to know, whose voice are you hearing? What is the little thing or the big thing that keeps you going and says, yes, we have a right to be here. We have earned the right to be here, and we will continue being here. That is what I would like to know from any of these women. It's just, how do you still that voice? How do you quiet the doubts? Because they're real. They happen to all of us.
So I'm going to ask Angela to answer that question, because I know that she has been through a number of those same situations and she's dealt with it because she's still here.
Oh, thank you for putting me on the spot there. To answer your question, I'm a Christian. I have a lot of faith, and you sometimes just have to get on your knees and just ask God for guidance and strength, and persevere. We've been pushing. I've been doing this work for over 30 years of advocacy. You move 2 steps forward and get 10 backward, and you have to go sideways, and governments come, governments go, elected officials come, elected officials go. And you have to sometimes say the same thing over and over again, because we need to look to our policymakers to make the changes in a number of cases especially for to change the systems, because that's where we want to do it. We need to change those systems on which that were developed during slavery and during when the lands were taken away from the indigenous peoples. All of the systems we are dealing with today, those institutional systems, were developed then and built upon year over year over year. And, so how do we manage to change those systems from 400 years ago, right? Hopefully it won't take 400 years, but you need to chip away at it, and just don't take no. Yes, you might face resistance. You find another way around it. You come back another way and continue, because if you don't persevere, if you don't keep chipping away, and as at a time like this with the pushback on the DEI, and ignore those terms that they bring up, is pure fairness and justice and stuff that we are after. When you think about the fundamental principles of what we are fighting for, that will keep you, and your passion. Have that strong passion to continue, because it's not an easy road. You very often feel like giving up. It's like, why am I wasting my time? But then when you look and see the children that you're helping, or a parent or a mother that is struggling so much, not because of her lack of will or her or ignorance, is because of the system that she's working under. Right, a system that does not recognize her credentials because she got them in a country they consider to be underdeveloped or undeveloped. A system that says that she needs to go back to school and spend $20,000 to be able to get up to speed, but she has 2 children that she can't afford to do that because she has to put food on the table. So what job does she go and take? She works at McDonald's or Walmart or someplace. Those, those are the things. And then she struggles, right? Because she herself is saying, but what have I done? I've done all I have to do, and now look where I am. Many of us come here, we have to start way back, because I came here as an adult too, start way back from where we left in our countries that we were in. And you come here, but you have to say, okay, yeah, I know I have to take a few steps back to be able to move forward. Because if you come with the attitude that I want to begin where I left, where I was, my country, you're going to set yourself up for failure and for disappointment. So there are a lot of things you need to do, but don't give up hope. Have faith, and you're going to find a way around that obstacle, one way or other. And what is really key? Support, working with others. We can't do it alone. So we work with others.
Lola, I'm going to make that happen. I'm going to make that meeting between you and Selena happen, and you can have that conversation, and then you can come back and share it with us. Angela, you bring up a really good point around support. And I'll talk about that afterwards, but something that you said also, pushed on a button. I want us to get to a place where we're not talking about tolerating people. People don't understand that comment. I think it was the quote in my 100 ABC awardee quote. We should not be talking about tolerate when we're talking about human beings. We should respect each other's differences. We don't have to agree, but respect the differences. Tolerating is for something like food or things, not people. And so I get very annoyed when I hear the mainstream talking about, oh, we tolerate this person, or no. Respect their difference, respect their uniqueness. So it's about dignity and respect and fairness, as you said, Angela. Adebola, if you could sit down for an intimate fireside chat with any one of your Sheroes, who would it be and what would you ask them?
Yeah, I mentioned Dr. Remi Ogundimu earlier when I was speaking, and I think she's going to be the one that I would, speak to again. And I'm just going to be asking how she was able to stay in the medical profession for that long. I have worked in places where I've stopped working, left because of racism experience, right? So and for her to have stayed in that profession, health sector for that long, now she's retired. I'm curious to know how she was able to manage the challenges, the negative experiences. What were the coping strategies? What was community care what was it like for her? Right, also self-care, what were the strategies? I honestly want to know because I also want to thrive. I want to keep pushing, like Angela said, right? We should continue to move forward and all that. So those are the questions I'm going to be asking, how she was able to navigate the years of service. And now that she's retired, she's still impacting the community, still contributing to social change. So yeah, those are the questions I'm going to be asking. And that I think would happen very soon.
Okay. Because I know that in some situations, from the time you actually get into a position, people talk about the glass ceiling. I like to talk about the glass cliff because from the time you get there, you really want to jump off. If they're not pushing you off, you want to jump off. For me, it was this thing in my ear that kept saying to me, myself saying to me, don't let anybody push you out. You got here on your merit. You were elected just like everyone else. And therefore, no one's going to put you out. No one is going to push me out until I am ready to go. And it's difficult. It is difficult. And that whole concept of support that Lola, Angela, and you, Adebola, have talked about is important. For me, the age of social media and WhatsApp has been amazing in terms of putting support groups together that you can just shoot off a message to somebody in the group and they can shoot you back that positive, positive thought or positive word that will help you to keep going. And then that constant in the back of your head that what you're doing is important for the next generation and for generations to come. So I think that, it is so important. Everybody keeps saying to me, when's the book coming? When's the book coming? Because they want me to name names. Book is coming, but it's hard for anyone who's been in the positions of leadership. It's hard because every time as you're writing, you're reliving those experiences as well. And those, some of those experiences are not ones that I would want my worst enemy to have to go through, much less me having to relive it. So support is very, very, very important. So, Angela, unsung
Okay.
or sung hero?
For me, I'm going back someone that of course, I won't be able to interview them, but I would still like to know. I'm going back to those activists back in slavery. There's Queen Nanny from, I'm going to merge two, Queen Nanny from Jamaica and Nanny Gregg from Barbados. They both had the same type of name, but they Queen Nanny was a leader of the Maroons. In Jamaica, Nanny Gregg was a leader in the 1816 rebellion in Barbados. I would love to know from them, really love to sit down. The thing is, my background is in journalism, so I really would have a really deep conversation with them. How did they manage during that time, those hardships of slavery, to even rise to the top of being activists and freedom fighters? Because that's what they were. They were, yes, enslaved people fighting, and they call them rebels and stuff. For me, they were freedom fighters. I would like to know, how did you do it? Because they were working from sunup to sundown. Very often they're working, working hard under unbearable situations, all of these things, but yet they found the grit and the strength and stuff to be able to fight against what they knew was was wrong, things that were wrong. They were human beings. They saw that they were not subhuman, and they found that strength and courage to say, this is not right. I'm going to fight against that. I am going to rise up against this torture. I'm going to rise up against this these horrible situations under which we are living. And they did. Yes, they got, obviously, with the rebellion, that a lot of them died. But I would love to sit and just get some of that, because I see us doing that same work now. We're not under the same conditions, but that's what we're doing right now as we advocate for social justice and racial justice and health equity, and talk to our politicians and policymakers and asking them to change systems and push back against the institutions like education and the police. That's the work we're doing now. But I would love to draw strength from them, because I'm sure it was 50 times harder than what we're doing right now.
Thank you, Angela. I just want to remind our viewers, please write your questions in the chat, because we will have time to take questions from viewers. Lola, is there anything that you want to add to this part of the conversation? And then I have another question for everybody.
I would say it's really just that know who your tribe is, the people you draw on for support, for inspiration, for mentorship, and sometimes just to vent. There are days when I am so close to tears and I'm going through my phone going, which of my elders can I talk to? Which of my peers can I talk to? Just to recenter and to reground myself so I can wake up tomorrow and go and do it all over again.
Thank you. Thank you. Now, I introduced all of you as Sheroes. Do you think of yourself as a Shero? And how does one convince someone? This is one of the questions in our chat. How does one convince someone that they are a Shero? So do you consider yourselves Sheroes? Start with Adebola.
Yes, I do. Absolutely. And then how does one convince someone that they are a Shero? Well, I think that self-perception is very important. I think we could also let people know that it's not about the very, very big things. Sometimes it's those little things. I think it was Angela that said at the beginning that, sometimes you have moms who are struggling and juggling a lot of things, caring for children, maybe a single mom or someone who is, just a single parent. And sometimes it looks like they're not doing anything because nobody's seeing their struggles. But when we're around such people, we can encourage them and let them know that they're amazing and they're doing their best part time. And that's what matters, right? When we have ability to do more, we will do more. It's a journey. It's not a destination. So nobody's like, oh, I'm there yet. We're all on a journey and we get better on a daily basis. So I think that, encouragement, reassurance is very important. Yeah.
Very good. Yes, yes, I would agree. Lola.
Well, I'm still working on it, if I'm being perfectly honest. I'm thinking if I'm a Shero or not. But one of my mentors actually said something to me once and said, you know what? Not everybody's going to be the next Angela Davis or the next Viola Desmond or the next Daisy Sweeney Peterson. Like that may not be what happens, but you can influence the people around you. It might be the neighbor that knows that if they're hungry or something, they can always reach out to you. It might be the kids that are the center where you volunteer sometimes and you help out with homework and you don't think you're making a difference, but you really are. So I think it's that mindset of just going small incremental change when it's a collective of people doing it in all their separate corners. That is just the echo effect of that is beautiful and real things happen. They don't necessarily have to be the thing that is in the news tomorrow, but the change in our communities can happen in small ways and in big ways. And if you are doing some of the small things and just generally trying to be a better human, yeah, you can be a Shero.
I think if you've impacted at least one other person, and Lola, I know that you have. So, you are somebody, Shero. Just the being able to even come on here and speak. We don't know how many people are out there listening. Some people can't do that, but you're able to do it. And, for one young girl or young boy, that may be all they need to see you up there. Someone who is not necessarily wasn't born in this country and still doing amazing things. One person just needs to see that. And so, yes, to that one person, you're a Shero. To me, as I keep saying, all of you are. All of you are. Angela, are you a Shero?
I would say yes, I am. Not something I set out to be, but it is based on on the work I've done and the work I continue to do. I know that people do see me as someone who is a leader in their eyes, and one of the things I would say is you have to have confidence and passion. Confidence in your ability and passion in what you want to achieve. For me, and from very young, I always look to see why should there be this inequity in the world? Why is it some people should have so much and others have little or nothing at all? Why is it? And for me, that's a driving force for me. I would love to see the end of poverty. And I mean, not saying everybody gonna be rich. I don't expect that. But why can't everybody have enough to live on and to be comfortable at least? Yeah, some people will have more than others. That is the way of life. But why is it that some people have to go hungry for days or be homeless? Why? And that's what drives me. Because of that, I do the work I do. And there are people who can't speak out. I guess God gave me the ability to speak, and I thank Him for that because others can't. I remember when I was doing my master's, and I was doing it in communication and culture, and it was a real international group, and there was someone speaking about the it was then the hurricane in Katrina. It was not long after Katrina. And I don't know if the younger ones remember Katrina, that really decimated New Orleans. Sorry. And someone was talking about how the Black people are being portrayed in the media. So a white person that looted a store was looking for food for their families. A Black person doing the same thing was looting, was a rebel, was wrong. So the way they were portraying Black and white was so stark. And I remember someone in my class, a white person said, I don't know why they keep showing these things all the time, because I just tune out when I see this. And I said, you know, that's interesting, because we can't tune out. We are faced with this day in and day out, and it's so degrading when you do that. We can't tune out. And so she had said that she was going to speak, you know, we had a break, she was going to speak and say this afterwards. And I said, you know, go ahead, and I will speak after you, because I think this needs to be said widely. And she did, she said it, and I said it afterwards. And then some people came to me, these were primarily Asians that don't like to speak out a lot, came up to me after and said, Angela, thank you so much for speaking out for us, because we don't do this ourselves. We are not vocal like, you know, and so, but that is how we feel as well. So there are people out there that when you speak out and speak out against injustice and stuff, there are others who you're speaking for, not intentionally, but there are others whose voices are silenced for one reason or the other, that you are speaking for them as well. And you are their hero, Shero, at that time, right? You are speaking out for someone, helping to pave the way, or at least bring attention to an injustice that others are suffering as well. So just remember, very often you're not speaking for yourself, right? So you're speaking for many others that they feel voiceless. They for some reason they're held back from speaking.
A lot of people also feel that their one voice isn't going to matter. It does matter. It does matter. When you talk about poverty, and again, it's how you look at things. In this country, people talk about child poverty. Every single political campaign talks about ending child poverty. When I was elected at the Canadian Labour Congress, I got the poverty file. And I remember saying, we need to stop looking at child poverty and look at living wages. Impoverished children have impoverished parents. And if we don't start looking at it in a holistic way, we're not going to make any changes. We're not going to make any difference. So when it was a way of teaching, when unions are out there on a picket line fighting for living wages, it's so that their children don't end up in poverty. They don't end up in poverty. And again, back to your point, Angela, there is no reason why some people should be living high and others have nothing. We live in a wealthy country. We found money during COVID. Money was found to make sure that everyone was able to live. Everyone was able to buy food. Everyone was able to have somewhere to live. They opened up shelters. They opened up hotels. There was no one living on the street. We have the capability to do it. The question is, why aren't we doing it? Why aren't people doing it? But again, that's another topic for another day. We have questions coming in. So let me go to the Q&As. How important is it to inspire and mentor those young women coming up into this work and the role of future Sheroes? And that question is from Lisa Skeet, who is also online and a fellow 100 ABC awardee. Anybody want to take that one on? How is it important to inspire and mentor young women that are coming up? Why is it important? And I think Lisa partially answers this in her question. They are the future. They are the future. And the future needs voices, and the future will need people to inspire as well. Anybody want to add anything to that particular question? There are a couple more that are here. let me go to what particular ways of how we support Black girls or women gathering can help Sheroes. So I think that what are some of the ways that we can support Black girls to become Sheroes, to see their brilliance, to see their shine, to see their worth?
Okay, I'll start. I don't know, Lola and Adebola, you know, I will start. I hope you jump in. But one way is to mentor, if you have the time, just, you know, even an hour a week can help if you want to mentor a child. And the thing is, even your family, you might have cousins, you might have siblings, it might be others around you, young girls. Talk to them about that confidence, building a confidence. First of all, loving themselves. What I find, because we have I've been working with youth and children for a long time, a lot of our Black kids don't like themselves. They don't like who they are, what they look like. And instilling that in them, that they are beautiful the way they are, they're uniquely created, that and that there's no one else like them. So don't be like, try to be like someone else. To love themselves and instill that confidence that they can. Yes, they might get barriers, and they might find discrimination. They might find these things, but you have the strength to persevere. You have the strength to get around these things, but you have to put your mind to it. You have to work towards it, and continuously let them know that, you know, read a lot. I think reading has been my mainstay from the time I was a kid. Reading and gaining knowledge, because you can't be confident and speak on a subject if you don't know what you're speaking about. So encourage them to read and learn about our history, learn about not just our history, but learn about history. Just make sure we don't forget, learn about Indigenous history, learn about other history, learn about the Holocaust, learn about other things, right? And remember, the Holocaust, when people talk, was not just Jews, they were the Polish and all of those others that suffered during that period of the German occupation. So learn about these things, learn about the world wars, learn about these things, right? You might say it has no bearing. It does. You will see that connection in life when you do that. And then getting them to be inquisitive, be curious, ask questions, right? Even if they're shy, ask questions. Right? Even if
they have to get away from children are seen and not heard, right?
Right, of course. Ask the question if they now they have the tools at their fingertips. We didn't have that. They go online and Google and search and do these things and find out more, read more. And these are things to help build their confidence and love who they are.
Thank you. Lola, what's your advice to these young women?
Sure. I would like to echo Ms. Angela about reading and knowing the history. I'm a big reader. I have learned more about the world through books than I have through meeting people. And I was fortunate that I came to Canada, where I got to engage with so many diverse people and learn even more about the world. I think the other thing I would add is part of confidence building is we who are currently doing the work also have a responsibility to share our stories. Because a lot of the stories that these younger people will read are the very big stories. And again, you may not be the next Viola Desmond, but there's nothing wrong with being the person in your community who's fighting for change. And if you don't hear the story of your aunt or your sister, they're real stories of how they got to where they got to, how they are still doing the work they're doing. I think that in itself is part of building that confidence, letting them know that someone who looks just like me and may not have a fancy title or a fancy education or even a fancy role in anything is actually still contributing to positive impact. So I think we also need to share our stories. Let's talk to our people. Let's answer their questions. We shouldn't be embarrassed about the struggles that have gotten us to where we've gotten to, or the dark days or the painful days or the doubting days. I think that's part of what builds a resilient next generation, that it's not always perfect, but you stay in it. And this is what I did to keep staying in it.
I love that. Love that. Adebola, do you have anything to add?
Yes, I can add to that. I think that Angela and Lola already said a lot, but I just wanted to have that what we do at the Afro Women and Youth Foundation Community Center. So we have youth programs, and they just come together to do activities. So sometimes they come to do beading, sometimes it's dancing, it's dance classes, just activities that gets them to engage and, have conversations and all that. And as they do those activities, you talk about the challenges, the struggles, what they're experiencing at school. And if they need to speak to somebody like a child and youth care worker, they can make an appointment and talk to them. So that way, creating spaces for young girls or Black youth in general, a space that they feel safe, they feel supported. I think that is very important. And again, what Lola said, the storytelling piece, sharing our journey with them, letting them know that we are also in the same, in the same system, but we're navigating whatever challenges that we're facing is also very important because for most of, I would say many of them, they don't have that representation. So where I live, for example, they don't have Black educators in the school system. So that's, a big missing piece, right? But in the community, they can see some of us showing up on a daily basis and providing that support.
And I think part of that is meeting them where they are.
Absolutely.
Right? We keep talking, we keep having these meetings and wondering why our young people aren't showing up and why people aren't coming. Well, they don't want to come out and stick out. Go to where they are. And chances are, strike up a conversation, they'll talk. If they're around their peers and they're all talking about the same thing, they will share.
Yeah, and if you can bring together seniors and the youth,
The intergenerational.
Yes. And that book I told you about, these are even, I know that we talk about our 500 now, the ABC women. The book I told you about, Our Lives, Our Heritage, it says stories from African, Caribbean, Canadian seniors, but it's in the region appeal. So I was doing it here. And these are people every day, people that you would not see in probably making the 100. Well, actually, since Marjorie Taylor, who was one of the previous recipients, she's in the book. So I should say that, but, many of them are just, a person that came and just worked, put their heads down and did that work. Even that, some of the struggles they encounter, but how they persevere and how they made it. Those stories help. Let people know that, I'm not the only one, or my mother's not the only one going through this. A lot of people did, and they survived and thrived.
Yeah. When you have events, invite folks back to talk about their stories, invite retirees back to talk about, the things that they experienced in whether it's the workplace or a community setting. I think that works really, really well because then people who are currently there can understand that they're not alone. There are others that have gone through it, and this now gives them somebody else to look up to and maybe become, they would become somebody else's Shero, or that person would become a Shero for them, right? Couple more questions in the chat that I want to get to before we sign off. Question, how can we as listeners help to dismantle stereotypes and biases that impact Black women in professional spaces? It may not seem as if that question has anything to do with Sheroes, but it does. Because if you don't feel safe and you're having to deal with all of those negative stereotypes, it's really difficult for you to be a role model for someone else, right? Anybody want to take that question on? And then while you're thinking about that, the other one is, what are 2 or 3 things that we can do as individuals or a group to create safe spaces for Black women leaders so that they feel nourished, so that they feel that they're able to blossom, particularly in workplaces, but this can also be in community as well?
I'll take the one on the workplace and leave Lola and Ebola to speak on the other questions because I've had over 50 years in the workplace. So I would say, yes, you're going to encounter in the workplace, you do encounter quite a bit. I did in the workplace. And how do you get around it? One day I would say, your confidence again, know your stuff, know the work you need to do, be knowledgeable and just have that confidence to be able to stand up for yourself. Because yes, you can be pushed down. And again, look for support group within the organization. Although some people may be scared, they're scared for their jobs. A lot of people in organizations are concerned that if they speak up, that they might lose their job.
Reprisals, yeah.
Or not get a promotion or something. somehow God didn't give me that fear. I was never one to be concerned about that. Anytime I saw injustice or something that didn't seem right, I would speak up. Got in trouble sometimes, but other times it worked. But also bring others along, because not everyone can speak up. I remember I worked with a financial institution, and when I went there, there was a program for workers can go to school, and the organization would pay for their schooling, especially if it's something that deals with their job. And I was talking to some black employees. They didn't do it. They didn't take it up. Some of them didn't probably even know it was there. I said, come on, this is something you could take, that you can use to your advantage. Come on, the organization is going to pay for it, for you to get your education and further your education. So I got a group of them together, and we went to do an evening class, and it was in computer and stuff like that, learning, which was just before internet and everything started. It was very good training for them. But they just needed someone to say, hey, come along with us, come and do it, right? And help them develop their skills and help them develop that confidence within themselves as well. So, if you see an opportunity in your workplace, encourage others and point it out to others, and encourage others to do it, take advantage of it, use it for their benefit. So that is another thing. Speak up. Rally your folk. Don't keep it to yourself. Share.
Good advice. Good advice. Lola, Adebola, do you have anything in terms of, stereotypes that are out there, or things that we can do to make folks feel more comfortable to talk about their issues?
I would say it's very much what Miss Angela said about come along, bring other people with you. Sometimes it's if you don't have a formal group, create one.
That's right.
It literally could be the 2 or 3 Black women in your workplace, and you say, let's go have lunch and chat. Somehow, inevitably, our issues will come up in that lunch. And we may not necessarily find a solution, but we found a sisterhood. We found a safe space. I think that also ties into how are we creating these spaces for people where they can learn from Sheroes or become Sheroes in themselves. It's create the space. If there isn't one, create one. It could be formal, it could be informal. On Sundays, I do a lot of calls. I check on my elders. I hear their wisdom. They pour into me. And I take that on Monday. I'm energized. It's not a formal system. They're not officially mentors, but they are people who have lived and been through a lot of the things that I've been through. And their counsel is important because none of the issues we will face in the workplace is new.
That's right.
It's already, someone's been through it before. Somebody has walked that path before. I cannot throw away what they have to say. I have to hear what they have to say, because some days it's just all you need to get up the next day and continue.
It might not necessarily work for you, like how they dealt with it, but it's good to know that other people have had to deal with that particular issue.
And it underpins that you're not alone in this.
That's
you're
right.
Absolutely not alone. Formal, informal, create a meetup group, create a Facebook group. It doesn't really matter which way you do it, but find ways to connect with people and say your experience is not just yours. We are in this with you, or we've been through this with you. And that's where the sharing and the kind of inspiring each other can grow. So, yeah.
It took me a long time to get there. I would talk about it. I would tell other women what they needed to do. Take care of yourself, make sure you have a support circle. I would tell them and list 10 things that you needed to do to remain safe and healthy. But I wasn't doing it myself. And until I began to do it, I was miserable, like really miserable. And when I began to do it and take my own advice, it definitely helped. It helped with the crap that you would face when you walked into that workplace or workspace, to know that, okay, I'm not in this by myself. I'm not doing this by myself. I've got this whole group to come in with me. And with me starting to talk about what I was experiencing, other Black women started to talk about what they were experiencing. And it's interesting because they would call me and we would talk about it, and we would talk about, okay, so what next? What do we need to do? And even though they didn't take the next step, it was still comforting for them to know. And some of them didn't take the next step because, as Angela said earlier, they needed that job. And taking the next step could mean they wouldn't have a job, right? And so just to know that there were other people there giving them some little tidbits on how to deal with it. And even if we had no advice to give them on how to deal with it, just knowing that we were there has helped. And I've kept that group together. It's a WhatsApp group. We call ourselves Amazing Sisters. And, I try and put people in there, anybody who wants to join. And sometimes it's just sayings that people put in there. Sometimes it's events that are happening. And sometimes it's, I have an issue. Can somebody help me with this? Or can somebody give me a call? Or can you all give me some suggestions? And it's worked, and if you don't want to be in the group, you can mute it, you can come out, but that support definitely made a huge difference and continues to this day. Anybody else have anything to add? I've loved this conversation, but I also want to give you all an opportunity to say anything that we didn't get to that I may have forgotten, or that is just, you're dying to say.
I think we kind of touched on maybe everything, but I just want to say that, when we were talking about the power of storytelling, sharing our journeys, and providing that community of support, what came to my mind was, so there's this leadership and advocacy in early childhood education presentations that I do at some colleges. And every time I've gone to share about leadership and advocacy in early childhood education, I have had sometimes one, sometimes two Black educators reach out to me to say, oh, thank you for that. Thank you for showing up. Now I know that I'm not alone. What you shared about your journey in early childhood education is what I'm experiencing right now. It could be at placement, some of them where they're working, but again, knowing that I've been through that same experience and I'm sharing my journey to encourage them, and also sharing some of the strategies that I have used that it could apply possibly as being like a game changer for many educators. So again, I just wanted to say that sharing our journey, our stories can be helpful to a lot of other people.
Thank you, Adebola. There was something that somebody just put in there. Marjorie, you're so right. A barrier is learning to trust each other. That piece, that trust, is extremely important because all of us as Black women don't trust. We've all been burnt. We've been stabbed in the back, however you want to, describe it. And so it's difficult. So it's something that you have to build up. And I think one of the questions, Marjorie, you might not have intended it to be a question, but it's going to be, how do you overcome this phobia of being hurt, not trusting? It is a barrier that's there. My answer to that would be taking things one step at a time, one day at a time, and talk to the people that that you can trust. Start there. I would throw it out to the rest of the panel to see if anybody else has any advice on this particular issue.
I would say it's not easy, especially if it's one of your own and someone you think, another Black person, Black sister especially, that you would think is on your side. And then you realize that no, and some things is happening in the workplace again, in that, they want to follow the dominant culture, put it that way, instead of looking out for the Black sisters or the Black communities as a whole, doing things or even standing up for them in a way. And I always have to remind myself, not everyone is going to be like me, that's going to go there like a bulldog and try to push through things. And I have to give people time and space to be able to do that sometimes. But the worst part, that part is, not trusting. But as you said, take it one day at a time and try not to become jaded and say because you got one person hurt you or was not trustworthy, that everybody is like that. because that is something that's a trap you fall into, you know, just like what they say, one Black person did something, the entire race, we have to try to do that. Okay, was that person? Yes, it may be weary a bit of when you go to speak to someone else, but give that person a chance. Always give someone else a chance, even give that person that was a chance to that was not trustworthy. But just keep saying, okay, this is it. Yes, we're the same way we're going to meet objections in the broader society, we will meet within our own. Some of them are fighting for their own survival, and they feel that if they support you, that they're going to lose something, because that is a mentality they have built up within us. I know the older folks, especially, that why should I let you get ahead of me, and you know, and I stay poor, kind of stuff like that. So they don't want to help somebody else if they see they're doing well, because why is it that you should do well and not me? So you know, that is something we have to look at, and maybe something like that they're thinking, you know, if I can't trust you because look how you're going ahead, and I'm still here. So it could be envy, it could be so many different things. We need to
overcome that.
Yes,
Yeah, we
need
do.
to overcome that, and try to look beyond that and see what might be causing that person to be the way they are.
Thank you, Angela. Lola, Adebola, do you have anything else that you want to share with us in terms of your Sheroes, being a Shero, the next step, any advice that you would have?
Well, I just wanted to talk about the trust issues. Yeah, so the strategy that I use is, instead of spending time worrying about the people that I don't trust, I just focus on the people that I trust.
Yeah.
And just put my energy into that, and that's it. So if things change, then maybe the other people, things will get better, but I put my energy into relationships that I trust, and yeah.
Good advice. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you, Adebola, for saying that, because as I was hearing Miss Angela talk, I was thinking time, space, and grace, right?
Yes.
The grace for the person who hurt you. Sometimes, as you said, the empathy is just they can't afford to speak up. They are in survival mode. They may not even know that in doing what they're doing, they're inadvertently hurting you or trying to take you down. So it's giving the grace to that. And I find that for me, I go back to the things that filled me. So if I walk into a place and I want to distrust everybody, I'll start with the people I do trust and just have them remind me that I met you because I was open and I stayed open, and we have been able to support each other and build with each other because I stayed open. It's also a reminder to myself not to carry that hurt and not to expect something negative will happen. So it's starting off from this positive mindset of I have good people in my corner. I have good people in my world, and we're all striving towards the same goal. You may not be where we are, but that's okay. I'll give you the grace for you to do you, but I'll remember the people that are here, that are building each other up, and sometimes go back to them for a little refreshing boost, because you still have to deal with the person who, you know.
Just a reminder that we all have this internalized trauma that has been caused by all the things that we've just finished talking about, the racism, the barriers, etc. And so, yes, Lola, that grace is so important in dealing with all of that. Yeah. Angela, you were going to say something?
Yeah, I was gonna. Yeah, I wanted to say, based on what Lola talked about, and you know, ourselves. We need to fill ourselves, because when if we don't fill ourselves, we can't fill others or can't
That's
help
right.
to support others, and that is so important. Sometimes in this work, you forget that you too need to stop, pause, rest, and refill your cup, because it can be draining, exhausting, and yes, and difficult at times, that you have to stop and refill your cup.
And part of that is, you know, the whole balance of taking care of yourself while you're taking care of others. If you're not taking care of yourself and keeping that balance, you're not going to be good to the other people who are dependent on you, or whom you're trying to assist. Okay. Okay. I'm loving this. Well, I want to thank everybody for sharing with us, particularly our three panelists. You were phenomenal. phenomenal sheroes. I want to thank all of those who shared questions and comments with everyone. As Black women throughout generations, we have persevered. We have pushed forward, often without complaint, and we will continue to provide leadership, strength, and guidance. I want to thank those in the background that helped with our technical issues today. And again, huge applause for our three panelists. And I'm asking everyone if they could join us for the next Fireside Chat, which will be on February 23rd, where we will continue the conversation about Black women's health and well-being. We're going to include midwifery in that conversation, so I really look forward to it. Please join us. Encourage all of your friends and family, other honorees to join us as well. And just a reminder that all of our Fireside Chats are live streamed and are available on our YouTube channel after the fact. So continue to share the link. Again, thank you, Lola. Thank you, Angela. Thank you, Adebola. Three amazing sheroes. We will be reading about you. We will be reading about all of you very, very soon.
Thank you. And thank you, Marie, for being such a wonderful moderator. Thank you.
Thank you.
Look how far you have come on your own, but never